Alright, so this video is all about the bolts and adjustments and making sure your headphone is in good shape as far as the mechanical parts are concerned. So every ZMF has a number of bolts on it. We've got the gimbal attached, we've got the rod attached here, we've got the rod adjustment, and we've also got the headband being held in here. So this is mostly about the chassis and keeping that in good shape for your ZMF so it can live a nice long life without you having to email us or have anything fall apart as you use it. And it's probably best to check this, I don't know, every week. You could even check it every time you put your headphones on, but that's probably not necessary, but it's worth knowing these parts as you continue your journey. So let's go look at the headphone here, and the first bolts we're going to look at are these gimbal bolts right here. And so we don't send these out with the headphones, but you can easily get them. They're a 2 and 3 millimeter hex key. You probably might even have these around the house, so to speak, as they're pretty common in their, these sizes. If you have a hex key set, you probably have them. And so this 3 millimeter hex key, all you're gonna wanna do, and you don't wanna use power tools with this, you just wanna use these hand tools, is go in here and just check and see, hey, is this finger tight? And as long as it's finger tight, and as long as the bolts are just about even with the top, you're not gonna have to do anything. And these set screws particularly, we look at these very closely here. Sometimes they're a little deeper and sometimes they're a little shallower. We typically set them so that they don't go all the way back to the back of this set screw slot right there. So there's a chance that they may be, at different depths depending on the wood, because remember, it's wood, it will have a little variance and all that. So if it's at a certain depth and it's not scraping up against anything, there's no need to adjust those set screws there. And we should have just about fairly even tension on both sides. And you're gonna wanna go ahead and check that on the other side as well. Give that a quick check on each side, finger tight, that's all good. Now on to the uprights. So the uprights should go up and down, and typically we set these at the factory at a very specific, amount of tension. They should have a little bit of a click to them. There will be a little bit of variance because these are very tiny parts with very tiny, pieces in them, keeping them tight. And you'll see there's a flat head set screw right here. Let's see if I can get a little bit closer of a viewpoint of this. So right there, you can see there's a flat head set screw. And so typically you're not gonna wanna adjust that, but if your headphone gets really loose and you wanna make it a little tighter or a little looser, you can adjust it. They are thread locked in. So worst case scenario, if you can't move it, I would suggest just leaving it, because with them being thread locked in, you taking your flathead screwdriver here, if you really wrench on this, you could do some damage to this tiny flathead part here, because it is, made out of metal that could be bent. So go back here, and if you want to make an adjustment, you'll go in here and you'll just go left or right on here. And I would not recommend going more than an 1/8 turn. Extremely small adjustments will change the tension on those very much, and I would mostly recommend just leaving those completely alone. The other thing on your headphone that every once in a while you may want to check is just to make sure, if anything feels not right, to make sure this steel band that is under your leather crescent band here, make sure that is straight in. If it's not straight in, you can adjust these bolts. Go back to our other view here, and so you can kind of see, let's see there. Yep, there we go. These bolts right here, those two bolts are 3 millimeter bolts, and you can make an adjustment and just very slightly loosen up if you need to adjust the steel band, those tension in the steel band right there. Again, that's something you likely will never need to adjust unless you're making a big change on your headphone, but if something feels off on the headphone or something slipped, you could go in and may need to straighten those out and make sure that they're really bottomed out in the slot inside of this upright. And so those are the bolts of your headphone. Mostly should go unchanged, but if anything is ever loose, always a good idea to check them. And then in the rare case that one of them falls out, but if you need to re-thread lock them, depending on what your gimbal material is made of, you would want to get thread locker back in them. And so the two kind of thread lockers that you could use are Loctite and Vibratite VC3. Vibratite VC3 is always going to be the safer one because this one will work on aluminum and magnesium. But in the case that you have aluminum and already have this around the house, you could use this. This stuff you really want to make sure not to get on the finish. This you don't want to get on the finish and wipe off, but this stuff will corrode away at finish if it gets on it, so you'd have to be more careful with that. That is the overview on what you're going to want to do with the bolts on your ZMF headphone. And overall, it should be pretty maintenance free. And as long as you check the bolt tightness on those every once in a while, if you have any issues, send us an email at support@zmfheadphones.com. That's support@zmfheadphones.com. And we can help you out with any issues that may not be in this video. Thanks for trying out your ZMF headphones, and check out our other videos if you have any other stuff going on with your ZMF and want to see how to maintain, fix, or use your headphone.